talking about fun and chaos, we have some Kathleen Kennedy drama. Now, if you don't know who Kathleen Kennedy is, she has been the lead on Star Wars for a very long time. And the problem has been Star Wars has been garbage for a very long time. The reboots or legacy sequels, whatever you want to call them, they weren't great. The first one was okay. It was like fun. It was one of those things that it was a nostalgia bait movie, 100% a nostalgia bait movie. And on top of that, it was just one of those films that, I don't know, I didn't love it, to be honest. It did okay. It just was like, when I first watched it, I thought it was okay. And then when I watched it again, it was one of those things that it was like, I don't know if I actually like this movie. I think Finn was the most compelling character. Whatever the chick's name was, she had zero personality. And that sucks because I think she actually is a really good actress. I think the biggest problem was the sequel to it was garbage. I mean, why is Luke trying to murder children? That makes no sense. But we have gotten some news that the Kathleen Kennedy era is finally over. This is from Critical Drinker, and we are going to get right into it.
It's done. Yes, Mr. Frodo. It's over now.
Well, it finally happened. After years of rumour and speculation, false claims, deception and ejaculation, it seems that Kathleen Kennedy is finally leaving Lucasfilm. I know, we've heard this same thing 100 times over from every clickbait, algorithm-chasing rumour merchant on YouTube, but in this case, it looks like it's actually legit. All the major trades are reporting the same thing. She's decided to step down when her contract expires at the end of this year. She hasn't been fired.
It's about time, dude. I mean, she hasn't been fired, but she's just leaving. I mean, her contract's expiring. She's like, I'm out ski 5,000, I'm done. I'm glad that I made the thumbnail the way I did, where it shows Cartman dressed as Kathleen Kennedy saying I want to leave on the stream thing. I'll probably utilize a very similar thumbnail when I re-upload this. But it's just one of those things that I think is about time. She hasn't made anything out of Star Wars that has came out that wasn't under Jon Favreau that has done great. I mean, Jon Favreau spearheaded The Mandalorian, and the first couple seasons were good, but I think it even kind of fell off. And it's just one of those things that it's been so nostalgia baity. I mean, even the show with God, I can't remember his name. I can't. You'll have to let me know in the comments. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But Obi-Wan, I know his character, but Obi-Wan's show was just kind of okay at best. And I mean, it was good to see both of these guys back in action, but I felt like the show was just kind of middling. There was a lot of stuff that it was like, why didn't you just walk around the fence? There is literally a cliff that you could have walked up and gone over the fence. Why did you need to make this so difficult? Why is this little girl taking on an entire group of like assassins and just outrunning them? She's like 2. What the fuck do we have going on here, bro? This makes no sense. And I think that's kind of been all of Star Wars for a while, and it sucks because it's just really badly written. Now I know that there's the woke grift where I could say, well, they just wanted to empower the girl or whatever, but I think that it's just piss poor writing at the end of the day.
She's not leaving in disgrace, and she hasn't been forced out by some internal coup. She's going out as we all knew she would, when she was damn well good and ready, probably to a shower of Lifetime Achievement Awards, meaningless accolades and fake praise from the shill media, not to mention the golden handshake to end all golden handshakes, but leaving she is. This, dear viewer, is it. The Kennedy era of Star Wars is at an end. And wow, what an era it's been. Tell me, what was your favourite aspect of her tenure? Was it her stunning and brave decision to relaunch a multi-billion-dollar franchise with a trilogy of movies that had no particular plan or creative roadmap? Was it her savvy move of hiring an arrogant, pretentious wannabe auteur with zero respect or understanding of the franchise, and then giving him a creative blank check to write the middle entry of a trilogy where he ended up—
Yeah, dude, that middle entry is the worst thing I think I've ever seen in it's the worst Star Wars movie. It's hands down the worst Star Wars movie. It's not even close. I went to that movie in theaters, right? And after that movie, we were driving home, and I have this issue where if I get in a movie, I call them thread movies, because I pull one thread and the whole movie starts to unravel. And it was one of those things that I was in the car and I was thinking about it. I'm like, why was Luke gonna just murder a kid? And then the thread starts unraveling, and the more stupid the movie starts to become. And it got so bad that, and I didn't like hate it upon watching it, but I remember thinking like, this is okay. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And when I was in the car, everything just started getting worse and worse in my head. I'm like, God, that was a dumb movie. God, this movie is stupid. I'm done with Star Wars. I was done with Star Wars films after that. You could not pay me to go into another stuff. I still haven't seen the third entry. I don't think there's a point for me to watch the third entry. I was like, oh, the big main bad guy just dies unceremoniously. Yay. And it's just dumb. I hated it so much. The most interesting part of the whole thing was just ruined in the end thing. Is Savannah okay? Hold on, guys. Give me a half second.
Killing off most of the major storylines and characters.
Squiggly Wiggly, is you having a rough time? Oh, she just got scared. She got scared. You're a big, strong girl. No need to cry. Dad loves you very much. You are the queen of the Squiggly and Wigglies. You know that, right? Sorry about that, boys and girls. I had to go make sure my daughter was okay. But let's get back to it.
Looking back, would you change anything in your script, or do you stand by all your choices?
Nope, stand by every choice. Stand by every choice. Stand by every choice.
Maybe it was the way she wisely failed to properly manage her writers and directors, hiring people who were totally unsuited to the task at hand and leading to costly replacements midway through production. Was it her inspired choice to scrap the hugely popular expanded universe that had been slowly built up over decades, only to realize later that her functionally retarded story group wasn't able to—
This isn't just a Star Wars problem. I want this to be known. Kathleen Kennedy was one of the problems in a much bigger cog of contraptions and aids, right? You look at the Halo show, had the same problem, where instead of utilizing this grand, vast storytelling that has been created around Halo, they're like, we're just gonna fucking put Master Chief in it, here's some aliens, and here's a fucking show, and like it or don't like it, we don't care. And that's just kind of the bigger issue, is it's a lot of these people are getting IPs without any prior knowledge. It reminds me of the 80s. Now, like, and you might be saying, well, the 80s Star Wars were good. Well, I'm not talking about 80s Star Wars. I'm talking about the Mario Brothers movie. They hired two directors, it was a wife and husband, who had never played or really interacted with Mario at all in its entire 10-year of existence. And they were given the rights to make the movie. Maybe it was the 90s. I thought the movie was 86. Now you'll have to correct me in the comments. But they wanted to make their movie. They didn't want to make a Mario movie. They wanted to make their movie, which is one of the most entitled, pretentious things you can possibly do. And that's kind of what we're running into here. It's a bunch of entitled, pretentious douchebags who now have this idea that it's like, oh, we're going to make whatever we want to make. You're just going to eat it up. We don't care what you think. And that's the problem with modern film and a lot of even modern video games, is they don't care about the previous audience. They don't care about the previous lore. They want to make what they want to make, and you're just gonna have to fucking deal with it. And if you complain, you're the villain. And it's just such a corporate goon sphere. And back in the day, when something like a Mario would come out, they would be like, yeah, we're gonna step away and we're never gonna touch Mario again. But now they just keep giving these people work, and it's so constant to the point that they'll hire just any jabroni off the street who's worked on one episode of like Schmiggle Biggleborg, and they're like, oh, you'll be perfect to direct this entire feature-length film with worth hundreds of millions of dollars. That sounds great. It's a Marvel issue as well. You can look at some of the more recent Marvel directors, and there's like some that you've heard of, and then some that just worked on fucking Bill and Ted, the live-action show, even though Bill and Ted always was live-action, but you know what I mean.
Well, to come up with any good ideas of their own, forcing them to steal characters and storylines from the very media that they erased from canon. Was it the way she bravely presided over a 50% drop in revenue over the course of the sequel trilogy, not to mention the first outright box office flop in Star Wars movie history?
I actually like Solo. I know it's not a great movie, but I had fun with it. It's not great by any means. I know it's not great. but I enjoyed Solo. I didn't like Rogue One. I thought Rogue One, I don't really care about, except for the OG. Yeah, no, I agree. The OG movies were great, but then after that, it was just kind of a constant fall. I think Lucas handled the films pretty poorly when it came to... The problem with Lucas with his prequel trilogy is he was like, wow, dude, we have all the inner workings of the world and the politics behind it, and he's like, we're going to focus on that. And people were like, yeah, it's kind of boring, though. Let's be honest, it's a little freaking boring. But out of all of the modern Star Wars movies, the only one I enjoyed even slightly was Solo. And I know... that's going to be a hot take. I didn't like Rogue One. I thought Rogue One was so boring. It was such a boring film. And then, like, I get that it's like, oh, it's kind of like the Alamo. Dude, remember Rogue One? And I'm like, I don't care. I just didn't vibe with any of the characters in Rogue One. I wanted it to be good. I went to theaters, and halfway through, I'm like, dude, how many shots of the fucking spaceship do we need?
Perhaps it was the endless stream of speculative new film and TV projects that were announced way too early in development with no real plan, structure, or connection to reality, only to go nowhere and ultimately get cancelled. Maybe you appreciated the inspired way she brought back a 900-year-old Harrison Ford to play Indiana Jones one more time, yet again falling back on the tried and tested formula of making a once iconic straight white male hero into a sad, pathetic old man who's given up on life and has to be shown the correct way by a smart, sassy, spirited young woman who's better than him at everything. Or maybe you were truly impressed by Willow, a TV show so disastrously embarrassing.
I wanted to watch Willow so bad. I loved the original Willow movie. I think the original Willow movie is one of my favorite fantasy films ever made. Dude, his Willow with Val Kilmer, I can't remember this actor's name, but he's iconic. I mean, he's the Leprechaun, he was Willow, he was in Solo. He's just an incredible character, and I was gonna watch Willow, but I heard it was just a dumpster fire. I heard it was AIDS just dripped on the tip of your tongue, and it makes me sad, dude. It makes me sad because, like, I love the Willow movie. It is one of my favorite childhood movies.
Awful that Disney actually chose to scrub it from their streaming service and take the tax write-off rather than allow it to continue existing. Or maybe it was her big brain decision to bombard the audience with a withering barrage of invincible, stoic, all-conquering self-insertion girl bosses shoved into absolutely everything that were so functionally identical they felt like they came off an assembly line, turning a well-known boys brand that everyone could enjoy into a prickly, preachy, pandering girl brand that nobody could enjoy.
Well, and here's the problem. I think there's an issue with writing female characters, and it's not even that. I don't mind female characters. I think you can do a female character incredibly, and I actually really am excited when I see a character that's well-rounded. The problem is they're not giving them any struggle. They're not giving them any reason for you to keep fighting for them. You look at Rey or whatever her name is from Star Wars. She just kind of fucking existed. Her personality was cardboard. The actress's direction was just like be cardboard and overpowered, and you just get so many characters like this where they're just overpowered, they're snarky, they're not somebody I'd want to hang out with. Like, you look at like some of the best characters in film, and there's somebody that's like, yeah, they're so cool, dude. I wouldn't mind getting a drink with them, like, even though I would, they'd be kind of like, you look at Dirty Harry, I'd be like, yeah, he's a little fucking wild, but I would still, like, he's cool enough that I'd be like, yeah, dude, what's up, Harry? I can never see hanging out with any of these characters because they're just not well-rounded. They're not interesting. They have nothing about them. They have no growth. They start out one way, they end the same way, and there's nothing to be gained from it. I mean, even when it came to Rey in the second movie, it seemed like she was going to have this arc, and she didn't fucking learn anything. Luke didn't learn anything. Nobody learned a goddamn thing, and then the movie just ends. It has all this allure of having struggles, but there's nothing there. It's just boring, and I hate when you look at this type of stuff and they're like, well, you should care about it, and then you like critique it, and a lot of people are like, oh, it's girl boss or whatever, and then the argument's instantly invalidated because it's like called sexism or something, and it's like, no, you just don't understand how to write a good character from like the original premise, and then you're utilizing progressive talking points to then talk down to the audience that they're a bunch of idiots. It's like, oh, well, you didn't like it because you're sexist. Well, no, that's not it at all. I don't like it because it's piss poorly written.
Honestly, there's so many achievements to pick from, it's hard to even know where to begin. They say in business that people rise to their level of incompetence, and I think old Kathy here is living proof of that theory. A woman of modest talents but massive ego and ambition, who was able to ride the coattails of industry titans like Spielberg, Lucas and Marshall with a series of not particularly demanding producer gigs, and basically inherited the role of Lucasfilm president from an aging George Lucas almost by default. And this truly is where she came unstuck at last. Lacking the creative vision, the imagination, the leadership ability, or the organisational skills to properly manage a studio like Lucasfilm, she instead commissioned projects left, right and centre, headed by whoever happened to be flavour of the month in Hollywood at the time, with no real understanding or thought for how they'd fit together into a larger franchise. With no particular creative drive of her own, she allowed most of these projects to meander aimlessly, letting creatives do whatever they wanted, even if it was detrimental to the franchise, and only stepping in when things spiraled out of control and it was already too late. She didn't particularly understand Star Wars or Indiana Jones or even Willow, and probably didn't give a shit about any of them. All she really wanted was to put her stamp on them, to reshape them into her image. And well, she definitely did that.
I don't even think it's shaping them into her image, to be honest. I think what she did was what's known as like a hands-off approach. I think what she did was she gave a bunch of people that had no real fucking experience with any of this stuff just free reign to do whatever they want. I mean, we can see the drastic difference between what Jon Favreau did with The Mandalorian compared to even like the Boba Fett show, where he had no really input, and it was given to Robert Rodriguez, who hasn't made anything great in a very long time, and Robert Rodriguez made that show feel like fucking Spy Kids. So it was like Spy Kids Star Wars. We had Favreau's very Iron Man-esque fucking Mandalorian, and then you go to something else and everything, it just feels like them, and it doesn't feel like it's part of a broader universe. And that's the big issue. It's not that all of these projects are, well, they're awful, but you look at the fact that they all feel so dynamically different and they have no identity because there was no oversight. It wasn't like somebody came in and said, this is the material you're going to be working with, learn it back to cover, then create something off of this. Here are some books on this character. I want you to make a show based on these books, but make it work for the screen. There was none of that. It was just like, here's some bullshit, do whatever the fuck you want with it, do whatever, make me money. And that's the problem. It had no oversight. And I think there's a lot of that with this creator expression bullshit. Instead of just like, you are making this show, you can have some creative liberties, but don't get fucking crazy with it. You remember, there is an established fan base, there's established lore. Do not fuck with that established lore. Just make shit happen that's cool, and that's the problem, is they're not doing any of that.
Not in the way she'd intended, but it won't be forgotten easily, that's for sure. Like some kind of all-consuming pop culture tornado, she rampaged through the world of entertainment, leaving a trail of broken and destroyed IPs in her wake. In a way, she became the public face of everything that people have grown to hate about modern filmmaking. The shameless strip mining of old franchises with lame cash grab sequels and creatively bankrupt spin-offs. The mean-spirited emasculation of aging male heroes and their replacement with abrasive, unlikable girl bosses. The indulgent excesses of divisive identity politics and fan baiting, and the hiring of people based on what diversity boxes they tick instead of what actual skills they have. And what really pissed people off the most was her absolute refusal.
Well, and I think this is the thing that I think a lot of people, and this is what I try to do when I talk about this type of stuff. I try to create an understanding of where I understand where people on the anti-woke side are sitting, and I can say, hey, I see this. I see that they are hiring people based off of trying to look good and trying to heighten different voices. But I can also look at the side where it's people who don't like the films and don't want to get in the muddy waters of the anti-woke stuff and say that, yeah, it's just bad writing on top of that. There's a lot of reasons these shows failed, and it wasn't just the diversity stuff. It's also the fact that they just don't care for the source material, and I think there's multiple reasons why something fails. It's not just one thing. You can't just always look at how cringe this chick is with a mullet, and that's the reason why it failed. No, it's also her inexperience and a lot of other things, and I try to find a good balance. But I feel like there's every every time you get into the muddy waters of like the anti-woke thing, there's going to be somebody out there who's going to purposely like this crap and fight to like it because they hear some guy complain about diversity. And that pisses me off just as much as the annoying diversity guy, because you got one guy, oh, you need to like it because of this. No, I don't need to like it because of that. Well, you need to hate it because of this. No, I don't need to hate it because of this. I can hate it just because it has piss poor writing. We're going to start with that foundation, and then I'll go a little bit deeper. And I do think that there is a problem with the identity bullshit in it, and I feel like it gets really preachy at times, and they like to do overlapping with real world political problems, which, to be fair, media's been doing that forever, but it's just not nuanced anymore. And what the fuck is going on with this chick's face, dude? How did I pause and she's just gremlining out, bro? She's on that fucking Nosferatu grind over here. My bad, I got distracted, but it's just one of those things that I think if people like actually sat down and pulled the word woke out of it and actually broke it down in terms of story structure, we would all come to a very similar understanding that the shit's shit. It's just garbage. And I'm sick of pretending to like something just because I might fall on a certain side. It's like, no, these are my opinions. I've watched most of this shit. I got to the point where I just don't want to watch it anymore because I know it's going to be garbage. And that's the problem when your shit lacks complete identity and you're just so busy with giving these people their creative freedoms when you're letting them ruin something that was already created to begin with.
Refusal to accept any kind of responsibility for a growing list of failures. Any other studio head would have been shown the door at least 5 years ago after Solo bombed at the box office, but for some reason Kennedy just seemed impervious to criticism. No matter how many times she fucked up, no matter how many franchises she ruined.
Again, I liked Solo. I know it's not a great movie, but I had fun with it. It was one of those movies, like, there's a lot of movies out there that I can say aren't the best movies, but I had fun with, and Solo was one of the few that I had fun with. I actually had more fun with Solo than any of the other modern Star Wars movies.
Or how much money she flushed down the shitter. Not once was she ever rebuked or demoted, and she absolutely refused to acknowledge that anything might be wrong. She just carried on smiling and showing up to premieres, acting like everything was going just great. Couldn't possibly have her take responsibility for her own fuck-ups, could we? Jesus, and they talk about the male ego. But you can only ignore time and reality for so long.
She was actually a really good casting for this role. She was. The show was boring. I got 2 episodes in and I couldn't finish it. I don't even remember what happened to those 2 episodes, to be honest with you. It was really boring.
Now that she's 72 years old and basically run out of things to ruin, I guess it was time for her to call it a day. And when she walks out that door at Lucasfilm for the last time, I'm sure she'll be showered with all the praise and awards that Hollywood can bestow on her. She'll have endless bootlicking articles gushing about how she broke glass ceilings and blazed a trail for female producers everywhere.
And I think this goes to a broader example of why you should, like, you don't hate the media enough. When you see the media consistently falling on the sides of corporations, you know that there's something fishy going on. I've been seeing it in gaming for a long time when something will come out and it's egregiously bad compared to the previous games, or even compared to just other games in the same genre, but it's made by a big studio, and then all of a sudden the game comes out and it also has like some weird political lines that align with certain outlets. But it's not even the political lines I'm worried about. It's the fact that when it comes to a lot of these big studio games, they come out and they just glaze the crap out of it. It's like, oh well, these are ones they paid us enough to do this. Now I'm not 100% saying they're paid, but it comes off weird where they're defending it so egregiously, and it doesn't even feel like a lot of these outlets that we used to go to that thought that they were on our side in terms of consumers. They don't feel like they're pro-consumer anymore. They feel like they're pro-corporation, and it's just so sad to see, because like if something's bad, if something's poorly written, I don't care what boxes it ticks. If it's poorly written, you should say, yeah, compared to the previous entries, this is not good. This is not well written. It's all over the place. There's plot holes everywhere, and it's just not a good film. But instead, we're getting so caught up in all the other bullshit on the side here. Like, it's like, oh, well, we gotta defend that she's a chick because there's some people mad that she's a chick. Well, we gotta defend it because of that. And it's like, fuck off, dude. And it's like, well, they're trying their best, and it's like, I don't give a fuck if they're trying their best. They're a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Why the fuck do I care how they're doing? If it's bad, I want them to fail. I want them to fucking reset everything, and I think that's a fair estimate to have.
and probably a best-selling autobiography about her incredible career accomplishments. But none of that is going to change the fact that she ran not one but 3 different IPs into the ground with her unique combination of absolute incompetence, boneheaded stupidity, and ego-driven vanity, losing billions of dollars in revenue and turning icons of pop culture into embarrassing, lame failures. And the real question now is...
But I mean, here's the thing. Willow didn't do great when it first released. It was one of those movies that ended up becoming a cult classic. I mean, like, I get it's beloved, but it wasn't like a smash hit. So the chances that the TV show were going to do good so far after the original came out, I'm not saying that it was like, it wasn't bad. I never watched it because I heard it was bad. I'm just saying that Willow was not the gangbusters thing. It was heavily weighted on people like me who had that nostalgia, who watched it after it came out, because I think it didn't do great in the box office. But like all these other ones were massive. Indiana Jones and Star Wars were massive series, and yeah, they were kind of on the downslide before Disney ever got them. I mean, the prequel trilogy wasn't beyond loved. You look at the last Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, it wasn't beyond loved. They were already in the downslide, and to come out and make something worse than their predecessors, which were already kind of had a lukewarm feeling behind them, isn't great. I'm not gonna lie, it isn't great, and it's kind of sad to see where we're at, considering, like, how can you go from worse to even worse?
What happens next? Who's going to be given the monumental task of trying to unfuck 10 years of Kathleen Kennedy mismanagement? Well, it ain't going to be Dave Filoni, that's for sure. That guy showed us exactly what he was capable of when he was put in charge of Ahsoka, and as it turns out, it wasn't much. There's no point getting rid of an idiot if you're just going to replace them with a retard. And the thing is, even with Kennedy gone, her influence at Lucasfilm's gonna linger on like a fart in an elevator as long as the disciples that she hired are allowed to keep their jobs and keep pushing the same garbage into their work. If Disney actually want to change things and make a genuine effort to bring Star Wars back from the dead, there's gonna have to be the kind of wholesale purge at Lucasfilm that would make Joseph Stalin green with envy. And quite frankly, I don't think they've got the balls to even attempt something like that.
Sorry you had to go, but let's face it, you are a fucking waste of skin. Waste of skin, yeah.
Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
And I think that there's a lot of people that have switched over to the anti-woke side, and because of stuff like this, you put a blind over people's eyes long enough where it's like, oh, you take something they loved, turn it into absolute dog crap, and then tell people that you're supposed to like it. They don't believe your lying eyes, don't believe your opinion, like it because of these reasons. All of a sudden, you're going to create people that on a certain side. You're going to then make people be like, well, I didn't like the writing. And they're like, well, no, you're wrong, because we said so. And then you wake up and there's a bunch of news articles journalist articles that are out there saying that, oh, well, you're wrong and here's the reasons why you're wrong, and you're like, I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong. Am I crazy? I must be crazy. And then all of a sudden you're getting into absolute slop and you're sitting through it and you're like, this is okay, but this is like TV movie okay. Why the fuck? This is like a multi-million-dollar movie. Why does it feel like a fucking TV movie from the 2000s? And then you wake up the next day and you see a bunch of articles telling you how it's the greatest thing ever, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? It feels like a coordinated effort. Everything feels like a coordinated effort anymore. And when you have problems like this, you're going to create people that don't like it. And then when those people talk about it, you then push them in more of a direction because you called them the bad guys. Instead of just looking inward and saying, yeah, we're fucking up big time. We don't care about the source material. We don't care about anything else. But we're telling you that we do care. We're lying to your face and expecting you to eat it up. And then when they make it about like identity politics and stuff, they know that they can get a different group online that will like their stuff and fight for it even without watching it, because of the fact that it clicks certain boxes. I mean, it's the opposite. If the opposite is true with people who don't like it because of certain boxes clicked, there's going to be a group that likes it with those like opposite, you know. I fucking lost my train of thoughts, but that's what happens. I mean, you then cause a discourse with, then you'll have people hate watching it, and you'll see diminishing returns, but you're seeing returns nonetheless. And that's kind of where Star Wars has been, and that's where a lot of these famous IPs are. They're just trying to milk them while also trying to get people to defend them on an ideological basis, which is just so dumb. It's so dumb to me. I think you should be able to look at something and say, this is bad, plain and simple. It's piss poorly written. And then when somebody calls you like sexist or something for it, you just be like, how I liked it because I didn't like it because the writing was bad. And they're like, well, you just didn't like it because it's a girl. No, it had nothing to do with it. I find that actress incredible in almost anything else she does. I just thought that these movies are bad. I just watched a movie, speaking of like the Marvel thing, what was that chick's name from Black Widow? There was the Black Widow movie in 2021, and there was a girl in it that a lot of the anti-woke guys shit on unfairly. They called her Florence Pugh. She got shit on really hard in a lot of this shit, right? She got shit on unfairly, like she was bad. And I think Florence Pugh is a fantastic actress. I just watched this movie, what was that? It was called like A Moment in Time. Or no, We Live in Time. We Live in Time is a fantastic film. I don't give a fuck what IMDb says about it. I don't care that it only has 79 on Rotten Tomatoes. That movie was an incredible chick flick. I loved every moment of it, and I thought she was incredible in the film. Now, I need to watch Midsummer, but because I hear it's an incredible movie as well. But after watching We Live in Time, I can see that Florence Pugh is much better than the role that they stuck her in, and they gave her little to no personality traits. And in fact, I actually thought she was the best part of the stupid Black Widow movie. But at the end of the day, the Black Widow movie sucked, and she was a part of it, and a lot of people, she was the new aspect in the film, so they blamed her, which I think is unfair. And I think the biggest problem isn't these people that you like to pick out and call bad. The biggest problem is the writing and the corporatization of everything, to where they're trying to play everything safe, they're trying to, but at the same time trying to give creative freedom, and trying to appease these online communities that aren't going to watch their shit to begin with, just so that they can get glory hole points on the internet. I just think it's cringe. I think it's all cringe. But yeah, no, Florence Pugh in We Live in Time was a fantastic film. I don't give a fuck what you guys say about that. I thought it was a good movie. It was like one of the better chick flicks that I watched with my wife recently. I mean, Andrew Garfield was incredible in it, and he's almost incredible in anything. That's all I have to say about this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed that.